So, can't be money, not money, or
Can't be money.
we all need money.
We are. Millie?
Association is a huge organization that gives away scholarships, as are all these other organizations here. Civil Air Patrol has scholarships to Colorado 99, Women in Aviation International Mile High Chapter. We have the Colorado Aviation Business Association. If you're interested in that board, you can join that organization and get scholarships through there as well. So my main thing to talk about is just scholarships. Aside from just the fun things that we do, right? All of our pilot organizations have fly-ins. We have fly-outs. The seaplane organization has a fly-in this weekend in Meredith Lake. Let's see. That said, too, I'm working with the Federal Aviation Administration Aeronautical team to bring in their reduced oxygen chamber. It's called the PROAT. It's the portable reduced oxygen training enclosure. If you guys remember, about 2.5 years ago, they brought it down to Centennial Airport, and some of you have done that. They're going to come back again. So their plan right now is to come August 16th through the 23rd. They plan to do this. Their fingers are still crossed, but we're going to do it at Rocky Mountain Metropolitan Airport. So I've told them that I'm telling all of you now, as Colorado Airport and owners and pilots, all of you, come get hypoxic and experience it, because last time we did it 2.5 years ago, we got, I think, was it 12 air traffic controllers and about 210 pilots hypoxic. Pilots, you guys all know that. Angel Flight West is Bob Kinney. Skipping down to Colorado Aviation Business Association, the name is Chris Swathwood. Had an email for him, and I'll be at the dinner tonight and cocktails, whatever, so you guys can all keep this in my pocket. Colorado Aviation Photographers, it's mostly a Facebook group, but it's a huge organization that's mainly just Facebook. So understandable, right? That's a great one. That is Bill Standerfer, who also does mountain flying. Yeah, that's the organization, pilot organizations for mountain flying. You guys can come and take mountain flying classes and promote that for your airports. Everybody should learn how to fly into your airport, so tell them to go get their mountain flying checkout and learn how to fly to your airport. Colorado Commemorative Air Force, that's an association. That's Jeff Eagle, he's a Delta airline pilot. We have Colorado 99s, that's Sue Osborne. Civil Air Patrol is Jim Jenkins. Experimental Aircraft Association, if you really want to know about this Experimental Aircraft Association, just go to Flight Code. Everybody knows what Flight Code is. Just go there and get them. Seaplane Association, Ray Hawkins, like I said, they have 2 fly-ins coming up this summer. Look into that if you're interested in that, promote that, help each other out. And Silver Wings is Bill Totten. Women in Aviation is me. So that's my report for pilot organizations. Thank you very much.
Excellent, excellent, Trimby. I do have a question though on the hypoxia event. Are people allowed to bring their phones or videotaping each other?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, so that's it. 2 people passed out.
Yeah.
And 1 person actually had convulsions during it. It is videotaped, so just be very careful. Yeah, I just said it, just be real careful, okay?
Not from this moment.
Yeah, well, here's when you are videotaping, this is when it happens.
You had something to add?
I'd like to add on to what Trevor's talking about. Just last week, Frontier Airlines, our hometown airline, and Aeronautical University announced that they have a program that they are working together on now for certification of pilots coming out of a 4-year degree at both of their campuses in Florida and in Arizona. You have to be enrolled in an Aeroflight degree program, but they are offering scholarships to those that complete those. This would be obviously for high net worth or high-end students, but they're looking to move right into a flight program upon completion of their degree with Frontier. So as we, right now, we obviously still have a surplus of pilots because of the virus, but that's scheduled to expire, obviously, by the end of the year into next year, and then we'll be back into the shortage of pilots that we had earlier. And so this is another one of the industry initiatives to help provide scholarships for young aspiring pilots and want to pass that along to any of the people in their airports that are looking to go down that road. So Aerial and Frontier.
I'd like to add one more thing. The Colorado Pilot Association is looking, if your airport does not have a representative who is very active at your, let me take it back. If your airport has somebody very active in the airport, knows a lot about your airport, flies out of your airport, familiar with it, all get out, have them join the Colorado Pilot Association and be your airport representative, because a lot of the airports in Colorado, some of them don't have pilot representatives. So think about that if you do that for Colorado Pilot Association.
And I would add that those airports and a lot of airport managers, it's really good for you and it's good for the community on your airport to have that dialogue continuously with that representative. So they'll help you out, especially with a lot of issues like noise and having all these finding my best friends. So, Jake, that's all I think that's all you have. Mr. Holsinger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for hosting us. It's such a pleasure to be here today and get to meet folks for the first time in person. Have been putting to good use the new webcams that we enjoy here in Colorado, and very excited at my home airport of 33 Victor. We'll be getting one of those soon. We've been having some productive conversations about wildlife fencing, 33 Victor. We've had a few strikes on the runway with antelope that we're trying to figure out how to tackle. And excited about the new flights at Durango, at Grand Junction, all the wonderful news and energy that we've got out here on the Western Slope. Drought and wildfire are issues that are surely to be a concern this year. And those of you airport operators, you may be learning more about your water rights than maybe you wanted to this year when the Division of Water Resources comes calling because of scarcity. Also excited that Randy is going to have a pancake breakfast soon, and we'll be excited to attend the CPA's Spaceport and Trinity fly-in in New Mexico this fall. I'm personally looking forward to that. And one other note of interest, just this morning I saw a notice that EPA had added PFAS, 3 new kinds of PFAS to its toxic release inventory list. So expect more to come on regulation and water quality.
Let's hope the FAA gets on it and starts looking to improve alternatives to PFAS. So, thank you, Kat. Mark?
My name is Mark Bantine. I'm the at-large member of the CAB, retired from Boyd and Jefferson, and we're very pleased to be here. Mr. Chairman, I have 3 items to report on all around youth education and getting youth involved in aviation. First, after a 13-month hiatus, we had a Young Eagles event at Centennial on May 15th. For those of you not familiar with Young Eagles, it's a program sponsored nationally by the Experimental Aircraft Association where we take youth from 7 to 17 and give them an experience of flying in an airplane, and it's all volunteer pilots. So it's nice to be back after COVID flying these young folks. We had 10 aircraft, 22 Young Eagles. The next one will be on the 18th, and we already have 35 signed up. So Young Eagles is a great program for your airports. You get the flying community involved and get the public in behind the fence, which is wonderful. Last month to the board, I gave a briefing on charter school, public institution for free tuition charter school at Centennial Airport called CAOA Skies Academy. It's 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. It's in the Cherry Creek School District. It's an aviation-focused middle school, and the school graduated 52 8th graders here on the 25th. Looking forward to 300 students next year. So it's one of the few places, actually in the country, few schools in the country where the kids are inside the airport fence every single day. And so if you're interested in that and learning more, it's CAOAskies.org online. And then I think this is important for everyone, and Trevi, you made mention of it. There's a program that's sponsored by the James Ray Foundation through the Captain Jefferson Foundation at Wings of the Rockies to give scholarships to young people 15 to 18 to get their pilot's license or glider's license. We've given 60 of these scholarships. They range from $6,000 to $10,000. Scholarship window is opening up again in just a couple days with a deadline in July. It's available to young people to apply who live in the state of Colorado. So if you know someone in that age group that's serious about wanting to learn to fly, $10,000 will get you pretty far to getting that pilot's license. And it's a tremendous program. James Ray was a B-17 pilot in World War II, and he did very well in life before he passed away and created this foundation. And so they're about to give the Captain Jefferson Foundation another $250,000 to give out to kids. So again, that's on the wingsoftheRockies.org website. The application is there. So please go home and pass the word. There'll probably be somewhere between 20 and 25 of those scholarships available. And then the last thing I wanted to comment on is when it was announced that the CAB meeting was going to be done in conjunction with CAOA here in Telluride, I said to Kenny that I was going to fly my Glacier Sportsman up. And Kenny said, please do, we'll make you feel at home. Well, they didn't roll out the red carpet, they rolled out the black carpet. The day before the runway was resurfaced. My ego wants to think that they did that for me. They did do that, but what a beautiful airport. And I did my best that I could not to leave a mark on the runway. But thanks to great people, and it's great to be here. It's great to have a chance to meet all of you and to join the CAOA. So thank you for having us, and I look forward to meeting more of you throughout the rest of today.
Thank you, Mark. Excellent. Chaz?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. My name is Chaz Tedesco. I'm the newest board member. This is my second meeting. I am very happy to be here. Thoroughly enjoyed meeting a lot of you last night, having some conversations. I'm the governor appointee to this board. I'm an elected official. I'm an Adams County Commissioner serving my final term. It'll be a 12-year stint as a county commissioner. Worked very hard to get the Colorado Air and Spaceport permitted at the Front Range Airport, now called CASP, Colorado Air and Spaceport, and I'm looking forward to keeping that up and going and expanding on it. We've had some great success out of there. We have signed an MOU with PD Aerospace. We've also had Extraction Engines as a tenant. They're great to have there. I think we're expanding exponentially. We have a lot of corporate flyers that are showing interest out there. We have gone after the earmarks. I'm sure everybody is going after the earmarks. We went after the fencing so that we could expand and really attract more tenants to the airport and expand what we can do there. I think it's a great opportunity. We're the fastest growing county right now. We have tremendous opportunities there with opportunity zones. We have 2 rail yards coming into the south of the airport. I think it's going to be incredible with that. We also have a lot of light industrial coming in. Aurora has shown a strong interest in putting a lot of development in that area as well with the ARTA project in the Aurora Highlands, the Gaylord and others that are moving into the area. It's just truly an expansive area that we can really capitalize on. We can draw a lot of interest into that airport. And that airport has the capability to expand and accommodate just about anything we want to do. And we want to be good partners with DIA. We know that they're going after their new runway expansion, and we want to try to negotiate with them as well as much as possible to minimize any detrimental effect to their communities. They've been great partners in the past, and we're looking forward to working with them again. Other than that, I'm here. I don't know a lot about the airport industry. I'm here to learn. I've had a lot of experience, fighting for CASP and also fighting for our tower. So I'm here to try to learn and be a better asset to my community and this board and anyone else to try to, get what we need to do the job well. I will tell you that I'm very proud that I am a father to a son-in-law that just became the assistant chief pilot flying helicopters out of Lake Superior helicopters. And that's my report.
Thank you, Jazz. That's wonderful. And George, I believe, is on the line remotely, hopefully wearing a suit jacket.
You want me to take it off? I hope my audio is coming in okay. Can you hear me all right? Can you hear me okay?
You're good.
Okay. Well, first of all, I want to apologize for not being there in person. I'm terribly sorry to not be there at CAOA and to not be there for the board meeting in person. Sorry for you all and sorry for myself, given the location. Dave has told me about the curfew he's implemented for the board of 8 p.m. So I appreciate that so that I don't have FOMO, Dave. Thanks a lot. I'll try to be brief since I'm not there. There are a couple of things I do want to update on. 2 things just in terms of, we've been checking in on traffic and I don't want to steal any of Bryce's thunder. We did just post numbers from April at Denver International Airport. In April of this year, we were off right about 18% from 2019, which is showing a steady increase. That's passenger traffic. And so year to date, we're off about 30% from traffic in 2019. But it's showing a steady increase. And we are now back to having the very good problems of what to do with all of our traffic. We hit a post-pandemic record day on Memorial Day of 64,000 people through our TSA checkpoints. Just to put that in context for folks at Denver, in the summer of 2019, we were hitting several days where we were over 80,000 people going through our checkpoints. So we're off from that, but really excited to see folks coming back and folks traveling again. As that's happening, we and all of our partners at the airport are having the same struggles that your local restaurant is having in terms of hiring people back. And TSA has put out notice that this is going to be a bit of a tough summer. So I'll put the word out that as you're traveling, as other folks are traveling through Denver, that this summer is going to be great to travel, but certainly given some time and thinking ahead about TSA as we go. And then the one other thing I wanted to add that I'd be remiss not to mention is that since our last meeting, my boss, our CEO, Kim Day, announced her retirement after 13 years heading the airport. 13 years is half of the life of that airport. And I just want to take a minute to say, you know, there were a lot of really smart people that had a vision for what a modern airport could be out there, and to design an airport around noise and around space and around allowing the airport to grow and be, you know, technologically advanced. And I'll just say for 13 years, Kim has really pushed that airport to be an innovator. And as she leaves, you know, we're building 39 new gates out there. And to put that in context, we're adding the same number of contact gates that, you know, Kansas City Airport has. You think about Reagan or National has 45 contact gates. So we are adding a mid-sized airport to that airport, and the future is really bright. And she's left that airport in really good hands. So just want to pay some respects. She's been a huge champion for the Colorado system while she's there. I think Dave understands that, and just wanted to recognize that. So thanks a lot. Again, sorry not to be there in person.
Well said, George. Well said. I'd like to add to that as well. I think everyone in this room probably has a personal story or situation, but I just kind of thought I'd share a personal story, interaction I've had with Kim. I consider her a friend. And considering she's such a busy person, I remember at her first, one of her first meetings at CAOA that she attended, I remember Steve Lee introducing her and really, I think, described her as very approachable, easy to talk to, and he was absolutely right. Just really a wonderful person, tremendous leader. I had, when I was my previous life as airport manager at Rocky Mountain Metro, there was a season where we had a tremendous amount of fires. I want to say this is about 9 years ago, and there was a tremendous number of fires west of the airport. Our tanker base was going crazy, and out of nowhere, Kim Day calls me up. I'm thinking, man, I'm just a little peon here at this airport, and she actually called me up and just offered, hey, is there anything we can do? And that really encompasses the kind of person that she is. She did the same thing in Colorado Springs. When they were having their challenges and tremendous fires and what have you. So, I mean, she was willing to organize, they needed fire trucks, whatever it was. But she is always willing, and the fact that she can remember us little people assures me. And I will say, the best and tremendous partner to Colorado aviation. As we all know, the majority of our revenue that we manage as a board is thanks to DIA, and she has been a stalwart advocate for Colorado aviation. She gets it. She understands the roles that all of our airports play in the system. And I would joke with her that we just want us to all stay open so we don't continue to flood your airport with smaller aircraft and what have you, and complexity. So, but she's a remarkable, someone that I will always cherish as a friend. I did reach out to her and offer an invite to this conference. And, you know, kind of as a live song to say goodbye to her peers. But she respectfully declined. She just is really kind of slowing it down and getting ready for next month when she's done. So, and I would also invite anybody else on the board, or if anyone else out there has anything they would like to say in recognition of Kim Day.
Mr. Chair, I would just echo your comment. You know, she's been a very ardent supporter of the entire system, and you know, my counterparts in other states that are host to a large airport can't say that sometimes. So it's been really fantastic to have her support, recognize that it takes an entire system to make the airports in Colorado work. So we really appreciate that. So I'll bring over the recognition we have for her that Mr. Vampa and I will try to find a way to get to her. Hopefully we get an invite to her retirement party. Maybe George can.
Excellent. So here it is, presented to Kim Day in recognition of your 13 dedicated years of leadership at Denver International Airport and your steadfast support of the Colorado Aeronautical Board, Colorado's airports, and your state's multimodal transportation system. So here is the plaque being presented to us. She'll take that and hang it in her office on the beach somewhere, hopefully wherever she decides to her next steps in her life. So thank you. With that, let's go to this item of public comments. Is there anyone in the public that have any comments or anything they'd like to share? Or think pearls of knowledge they'd like to share?
And if you do, I might ask you to come up and use the microphone so we can make sure we get your comments on the recording for the CAB meeting. So I put you on the spot here to come up and talk.
Jeff Coleman.
Jeff Cole with Aviation Management. So I want to coattail on both Mark and Trinity's comments. Scholarships is a key way to help our industry, bring new people, new blood, get some people that have been in the industry back in the industry. 2 years ago, AMCG started the AMCG Foundation. We donate 10% of our profits to the foundation. We started an initiative called the Future Aviation Initiative. It's going to be out probably in about 2 months. We developed a website focused on aviation scholarships, because what we found is we heard from a lot of organizations that have scholarships is they have money, but they don't have applicants because there's not good tools out there to market. So we are consolidating every single scholarship that we can find that we know of, and you guys will be contacted to make sure we get these added to it. But we have like 600 scholarships on the website right now when it goes live. And so it's a one-stop shop where people can go and find a scholarship that matches their interest. Look for that. We're going to expand it to internship programs and grants as well as we go forward. So we'll get that out there.
Excellent. And again, I think it's just so nice to hear Trudy and Chick and Mark and all the focus is our future really is. There is, we didn't really hear much about it because of what we just went through. But remember, before that, there was a pilot shortage. And since then, a lot of pilots have been bought out, early retirements and what have you. So I believe that's going to be an exponential number and an issue, if not already, in the very near future. So that's great. It's great to see that. Thank you. So with that, let's go to number 6.
We've got one more.
Oh, yes.
I was going to call line if I didn't see Richard. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So, Casey Adamson, proud member of the Colorado 99s. Just wanted to announce that in March, they will be hosting the section meeting for the Colorado 99s at the Boulder area. So if you want to promote any of your airports or fly-ins or anything like that, come see me. I'll give you more information. Sorry, too much coffee. I got the dinners right now, so, and public speaking is never, you give me a microphone and it just is awful. So, but I really wanted to promote Colorado airports at the section meeting. We're going to have 8 states worth of women pilots coming into Colorado. So great opportunity to just show off your airport. So let me know. It's going to be March next year. Thanks.
Excellent. Can you get up here? Come on, somebody else. Anyone else have any comments they'd like to share? Okay. Well, Let's move on to item number 6.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Since the division's inception in 1991, we have been continuous members of the National Association of State Aviation Officials, or the CAO. The CAO is the association that represents state aviation agencies like ours across all 50 states in the U.S. territories. Interestingly enough, it's one of the oldest aviation associations in the country, celebrating our 90th year here in 2021. We're really happy. Our division of aeronautics, in conjunction with Greg Phillips and his team in Colorado Springs, for the first time in the CAO's 90-year history, we get to hold our annual conference here in Colorado, Springs, September 12th to the 15th. So, Tracy McDonald, would you raise your hand? Are you in here? Step down. Tracy's also with the CAO. She's our director of meetings and membership, and she's going to be recruiting all of you to hopefully sign up to attend the CAO and meet myself and some of our peers from all across the country at the Cheyenne Mountain Resort in September. So it's my privilege today to introduce Greg Pecoraro, who is our CAO CEO and president. It's really funny how small our aviation world is. About 10 years ago, I went to work for AOPA, and Greg was the guy that hired me. Now he's in a different role, I'm in a different role, and our paths have crossed again because it was a year ago, February, the very last trip I took before COVID was to do his interview out in Washington, D.C. So it was really cool to get to meet with my peers and select Greg as our new president and CEO. And I can tell you that there's no more of a passionate guy about aviation and aeronautics, and we're so happy to have him as our CEO. He came on board right at the start of the pandemic. It was an adjustment for all of us. But we're happy to have him out here from the CAO's office in Washington, D.C. to introduce himself, talk a little bit about Maceo, and he's also doing some light work for our conference in September. So Greg, welcome to Telluride. He lives at sea level, so he's going to talk slow because he's way up here. So take it easy, slow steps. But Greg, welcome to the CAO.
Thanks very much. It's great to be here. I just want to say, it's been a very strange way, as Dave mentioned, to start a new role like this. We had our annual legislative conference in DC, a year ago in February, the last week of February, and then Tracy McDonald, who, as Dave said, slipped out for a minute. Tracy and another, rest of our staff, we got together for a couple of weeks after that, and then one day the governor said, maybe you all want to stay home for the next 2 weeks. We'll see how this works out. So we stayed home for a lot longer than 2 weeks. But anyway, it's been an exciting way to run the organization. We had our virtual convention last fall instead of having it in person in Greenville, South Carolina. And we were incredibly hopeful that we would be able to host our annual convention in person this year, when we were supposed to have it, which is Colorado Springs. So we're very excited to be joining you all in Colorado Springs this fall. Can't say enough great things about the folks at the Colorado Springs Airport. They've been tremendous partners for us, and you don't see that everywhere across the country. So thanks so much, Colorado Springs, for doing it everywhere you guys are. Thanks very much for you guys for doing the great job you're doing. It does get dry.
Yes, it does.
So, as Dave mentioned, Maceo is celebrating its 90th anniversary this year. We were founded back in 1931 as aviation was in its infancy as an industry here in this country. And what was happening was a lot of state governments were saying, hey, we really need some way to figure out how to regulate this thing and probably tax it too, right? So state governments started creating aviation agencies. State aviation agency said, a patchwork of regulations from state to state just isn't going to work. So they joined together and created the CAO, and they said, let's talk about some national standards on how aviation ought to be governed across the country. Well, they quickly realized that they were in no real position to enforce national standards either. So they petitioned the federal government, probably one of the few times that the states have asked the feds to take something on, and said, we need you guys to take over aviation because we need some national standards. But they decided to keep meeting together themselves. They saw a tremendously valuable role for the states to play in continue that work, to discuss these standards, to discuss what aviation needed across the country, and to work together to try and influence national policy. So 90 years later, we continue to play that role.
Over the past year and a half, we've been very active in trying to make sure that aviation received its fair share out of whatever aid was adopted by Congress and COVID relief. We all know how the industry suffered. We worked very hard to make sure that airports received the funds that they got in several tranches. We're pretty pleased that we managed to keep AIP, the federal share of AIP funding at 100% during that time because we recognize how critical that 100% match is, your share is, without having to find a local and state match. As a lot of states were suffering because of the pandemic as well, they had fewer resources to be able to get out. Certainly, airport sponsors had fewer resources to be able to get out. So it was vital to be able to keep that share at 100%. We're working right now on the infrastructure package. We just sent our letter off to Congress saying that, as Congress tries to pull together the final legislation on the infrastructure package, we want to make sure that they did two things. One is they make sure that they repair today's airports. And the second thing is they start building the airports of tomorrow. Because we all know that there's a lot of tremendous aeronautical technologies coming our way, and we want to make sure that airports, vertiports, whatever vertiports means, we'll figure that out soon, right? Heliports, all these things, that all of this is adapted to the way that we're going to be changing the infrastructure in this country. As we're going to be rebuilding the electric grid, as we're going to be anticipating eVTOL aircraft, as we're going to be a whole variety of different types of entrance into the airspace. We also want to make sure that we're focused on sustainability. We want to make sure that the Congress continues to contribute towards developing a fuel supply that's going to work for the future, as well as supporting airports in their own sustainability efforts. So that's all part of our recommendation to Congress. We're going to be working hard on that over the next 3 months as Congress tries to get something done by July 4th, they say. We'll hope that they do. And we'll be in there with them working on trying to make sure all of that happens. I just want to say one other thing, and that is that if we think about coming to Colorado Springs this fall, one of the things that we're really excited about is showcasing what's happening here in Colorado aviation. You all maybe know this, but you probably get tired of seeing it all the time. We've got one of the best state aviation directors in the country here in David Lane. Widely respected by his peers. Later. He's respected by his peers who have elected him to be the treasurer of the National Association right now. He's on the path to the chair of the National Association in 2 years. He's got a terrific staff. We've really loved working with them over the past couple of years as we were planning for this convention. And just look around the tremendous innovative things you're always doing in the state. So Bill Payne's here, he's got something on the agenda he's going to be talking about. Bill's always got something innovative to talk about. And we're just very proud of what you all are doing here in Colorado. I know that Dave's peers look to him. I had one of Dave's peers say to me, I'm retired because my state doesn't let me do cool things like baking labels. So that's the truth. That's the God's honest truth. So anyway, you can be very proud of the work that they're doing here in Colorado. We're certainly excited to be working with all of them, and we're looking forward to being back here in September to visit with you all again. Thanks very much.
Very good. Thank you, Greg. We appreciate all the great things that SAM does for really the whole U.S. So, our next item, number 7, Director's Report. Director Elaine.
Mr. Chair, before I start that, I know it's been a couple of years since we all met in person. I think many of you that have been to past CAB meetings prior to the pandemic remember that Leo Milan was our representative from the State Attorney General's office to this board, keeping us on the straight and narrow with regards to state statute and following all rules. I'd like to introduce a new face at the table down at the end, Vaughn Nelson. Nelson joined us a couple of months ago as our new delegate from the Attorney General's office. So you'll see him in front of your face, keeping us out of trouble. We laugh, he's got the easiest job in the AG's office because we're pretty non-controversial. So anyway, welcome, Vaughn. It's nice to have you here in person. Glad you could make it up on the airplane today.
Could you say his name slowly, Greg? Dave?
Sure. Vaughn. P-A-W-A-N. That's how it's, got that right? That's how it's spelled.
Yeah, that's how it's spelled, but it's pronounced Vaughn.
Could you tell us a little bit about your background? I know you're also new to the AG's office as well. Not to put you on the spot.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Juan Nelson. I'm an assistant attorney general in the transportation unit. One of the things I do is stuff like that. I'm relatively new to the office. I joined the AG's office in January. Before that, I was in private practice, doing mostly trials. Happy to be here and have some fun.
Well, Dave, we're gonna have to come up with something to break him in.
I will come up with something that's fire like the same Mr. Welcome. Just a couple of really quick things from the director's report. You know, I love talking about innovation. It's no big secret that last year we partnered with the weather camera team to install cameras on our network of 13 non-AWOS units that our division owns and operates in the high country. We're the first state outside of Alaska to have cameras in the FAA system. We did that through a cool partnership. We did it through a reimbursable agreement where we shipped the FAA about $266,000 of our funding, and then they came down and did the work. It was really cool. So that led to a conversation about what do we do next? Well, I think what our goal is, what we're really aspiring to is over the next few years is to have FAA aviation weather cameras on every airport in Colorado that has certified aviation weather. So we were happy last year, thanks to the board, you all allocated $166,000 of funding to knock off 10 airports. So we just completed those last week. The FAA team came down. This is amazing. They came down on May 17th. On June 1st, they completed all 10 installations as well as 3 FRAs to our existing camera system. This team is incredible. I know from Tony's airport, I've heard a lot of great feedback about that. But what I'm really happy about, you can see there, we've got we got Aspen, Telluride there. So very, very cool. But we put those cameras now on 10 airports: Walden, Aspen, Durango, Eagle, Gunnison, Hayden, Lyman, Leadville, Rifle, and Telluride. And those were turned on 2 hours ago. So we're pretty happy about this. Have a look now. When you look on the FAA's website, as of right now, there's 10 more dots. The dots aren't quite there yet, we noticed, but when you click on one of the airports, you'll take a look. There you go. That's what you get. You get the view, what it looks like today on the left, with the clear view on the right, and some geo-referenced points that FAA develops. All of that on our behalf. 4 camera views that, again, we really appreciated the airport directors helping us out with the best place to put those, and providing the space to put those on. Those are not on the AWOS units on the airport. There's too many complications with trying to locate the cameras on an AWOS unit, so they're on ARF buildings and hangars and things like that. So I wanted to say thank you to all 10 of those airport sponsors for helping us find a spot and giving us free power to run those. So thank you, Kevin and Tony, to see us on David Reed back here somewhere. Thanks, David. All of you, thank you for doing that. We're looking really forward. That's a huge safety benefit. Hopefully you find that out with your local pilots. But again, I can't say enough great things about the FAA's weather camera team and board. At our August meeting, you may see me coming back to ask for some money to continue this next year because the FAA is willing to do that. So stay tuned for more info. So get thanks on that. Just a couple of other quick things of interest. All of you are familiar with our DEN surplus equipment sale. We've actually expanded the last few years to include more surplus equipment than just from Denver. Unfortunately, this year, Denver has advised us that due to their financial circumstances, they're not going to be disposing of any used equipment this year. So we will not have a DEN sale. But for any few airports, I know, Kevin, you've offered up equipment in the past. If any of the other airports have quality used equipment that you're not just trying to pull off a lemon on one of your friends, please get with Caitlin and let her know. We would like to still have a sale. The board did approve funding for it. We do have the funding for it in this year's budget. So if any of you do have any airfield equipment that you might like to sell to another airport in Colorado this summer, please get with her and we'll see if we can put something together. And we'll answer back to our normal template with so that's really it for that. Just a quick update. I want to give a shout out to Todd and the planning team. One of the things that summer brings for us is their batch of airport 5010 and pavement condition inspections. Every year they knock out about a third of our airports. They travel around the state, and the data that comes out of the PCI investigation informs our maintenance strategies and informs our grant prioritization. So again, we really appreciate all of you airports helping us out on your team. Shows up at your airport to get out on your runway and screw up traffic and do all the things you need to do to knock that out. So thank you for supporting that. Thanks to Todd and the team for doing that. They do that in the dead of summer when it's the best time to do it. From that perspective, unfortunately, it's the hottest time too. So they always come back sunburned and sweaty. So anyway, thanks Todd for all you guys do to make that happen every year. Lastly, I'll just give a quick update on our strategic plan update. Those of you that have been following what we've been up to, the division once again retained great services of Jeff Coleman and the Aviation Management Consulting Group to facilitate the development of our next strategic plan. The last one was completed in 2018, and over those intervening 3 years, we made a lot of progress on things. Things are different now than they were in 2018. It's time for us to map out the next 3 years of what the division is going to focus on beyond the grants and things that we know we have to do. So thank you, the Colorado Pilots Association is part of that. CAOA is part of that. Thanks, David Ruppel, for representing that, you and Jason. Anyway, our next strategic plan meeting is going to be on the 21st. We're working through that with the goal of having a new plan for the board's consideration and adoption in August. So again, Mr. Manfred is representing the board on that process as well. So the CAB is part of that too. So that's all I have, Mr. Chair. Unless there's any questions. Questions from the board?
Does anybody here use ForeFlight? Any pilots use ForeFlight? Raise your hand. All right, so supposedly the weather cameras are going to be on the ForeFlight app. So when you are flight planning, you can look at the weather from those aviation cameras on ForeFlight.
Ways away from that, you're right, but the FAA is working on the plugin for the app that will allow you not to have to go to the website, but hopefully be able to just click on a tab and ForeFlight and click on the cameras. So I think they were looking for January to maybe have that available, and not just for ForeFlight, but for Garmin Pilot and some of the other products that people use. So yeah, that's a great point.
Thank you. And one thing I want to echo, I worked with this team, and they said they're going to, first of all, when a federal agency says they're going to come in and do something in a day, I'm a little skeptical. This team was amazing. They're actually an Alaska team with Scylla, and they've been working together for many years. So there is one exception, though. I'm a little puzzled that I didn't realize that we agreed to get free power to these things. So okay, anybody else? Any other comments? Okay. This next one's tough. Let's talk about Denny Song and let's honor him.
So a few months ago, I got a contact from somebody. Those of you may remember March 22nd, the senseless act of violence in Boulder took the lives of 10 people way too early. I'm sure I'm like you, I read the news, I read the paper, I read the news. I didn't really know a lot about those, but over the intervening months, I came to know a little bit more about one of the victims, a young man, 20 years old, Denny Song. Denny was a really avid model aircraft flyer. He was very big in the aero modeling group up in Boulder. His dad was a pilot, grandfather was a pilot. He was learning to be a pilot at Rocky Mountain Metro. He was just a couple hours short of soloing on March 22nd. So one of the things that as I got to know the family and talk about, what aviation meant to this young man, it dawned on me that, every single one of us, I think, in this room can probably relate to the young man excited about aviation at an early age. And unfortunately, he doesn't get to realize the dream like the rest of us did. So we want to recognize the family, Denny's memory, and all the things that he did for aviation. It was exciting. He was an incredibly active young man.
So we'd like to present, his passion, celebrate his passion for aviation, which inspires all of us, and his memory will continue to live for a long time. So we'd like to present this propeller to friends and family of Denny Song in honor and memory of an exceptional young man born to fly and never quit. Presented by the Colorado Aeronautical Board on behalf of the Colorado's entire aviation community, June 10th, 2021. And I believe his father, Nick, is here. I'd like to present that to you.
it's really nice to see all the youth programs that are out there. It's really nice. That's inspiring.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, let's talk about exciting things like financials. So, Bryce, review our financial update on the dashboard.
Sure thing, thank you. So base revenue came in at 1.9 million, bringing our total for the year up to 15 million. Final FY21 forecast is for 17 million, which was set up in Q3, and we're on pace to hit that pretty much exactly. Again, revenues 1.9 in May, that was 124% of the forecast. Again, Denver outpacing conservative revenue estimates has added additional funds. It's likely that trend's going to continue for the fiscal year. In comparison, it's 373% above the 527K revenue in May of 2020. I probably don't need to go into detail why it was so low, but for a more relevant comparison, that was 80% of revenue compared to May of 2019. So as you heard George mention earlier, Denver's crawled back a lot quicker than many other airports, and obviously our revenues are reflected by that as well. Next slide here just looks at our cash balance. We ended the month of May with about 10.5 million in the bank accounts, up slightly from the end of April. We had projected to decrease, but we had almost no drawdowns to our CDAC program, so that's what kind of threw that number off. With it being the end of the fiscal year, I'll get into that part here in a little bit, but we anticipate the drawdowns just to pick up. They're never linear, but we do have a good idea kind of where it comes. So, it's moving up. That's always a good thing. We do anticipate that will draw down this month, though, both because we have more revenues, which means we're going to have more expenses next month, dispersing those back to the airports. And again, with it being June, that's typically our biggest drawdown month as far as it comes to grants. So, next slide here just kind of shows the tax disbursements by month. Like I said, you can see as revenues increase, so the amount of money that we're putting out right back to the airports. Sales tax disbursements in May were 1.26 million. Excess tax for avgas was 171,000, and avgas 9,000, for a total of 1.44 million. And they continue to follow the monthly cycle. Revenues up, and expenses are following us. So nothing out of the ordinary there. And the next slide here is our contingency analysis. As we've talked about before, we went through previous funding issues as far as revenue for various reasons. Adjustments weren't always made, but we did make adjustments this year with the board's blessing as we talked about things as COVID started ramping up. So we are in a very healthy spot financially. Like you said, sure, revenues are down, but we also took the necessary steps. So as we look at the current use program, we have funding to cover everything that's out there. And we are already showing a significantly ramped up program for next year. Numbers aren't official yet there, and we'll go through those at our workshop in August as far as what we're looking at. But one of the great things about the way that we did this is by making sure that we are fiscally responsible right now. As we come out of the pandemic like we are, we're going to have the flexibility to react to that a lot quicker than other state agencies probably would. So we'll have more information on that come August. But again, bottom line, the takeaway from this is we're in a very healthy spot financially, and with what's coming up for what we're going to do. So, next slide here. Just a blank, so we have to go over that. Our admin expenses for the year, we are currently on pace for a little over $1 million, 1.05 for admin expenses. That would be 3.94% of our FY20 revenue numbers, so we are well below the statutory cap. It's followed in a pretty linear line, as you can see. Nothing out of the ordinary expected there. Denver fuel flow. As George mentioned again earlier, they are coming back. They're coming back strong. Flowage in Denver in May was 29.1 million gallons. That was up 119% from April's 24.4 million gallons. And again, 3.5 times the number April last year during the pandemic. But again, of note, it was 65% of April 2019 numbers. The forecast for next month, as you can see, the yellow line there in the middle, it's continuing to spike. They're projecting 34.4 million gallons of flowage in June, which again, as we compare to 2019, that would be 75% of the 2019 numbers. And as you can see, that was an all-time high ever at Denver International. So we are getting back to kind of the normal flow. As you can see on the graph there, month to month, it is pretty linear. We know which months are typically going to see increase, which ones are going to see decrease, and we're starting to get back to that. And as we get farther along, we'll be able to revise our forecast and make sure that we have the most important and most relevant data as we use that. But again, our forecast for this year is going to be right on what we had forecasted, and the model that we use has allowed us to adjust as things have changed quickly. So it's a lot of good news on that front. And final one, just looking at our disbursements last month, again, the biggest portion is obviously tax disbursements back to the airports, about 1.45 million. CDAC is almost always our second biggest one. As you can see here, there wasn't much last month, 27,000. Again, we know that's going to jump up. That's just kind of the ebbs and flows of programs. So, bottom line, I think that's my last slide. But yeah, we are in a very healthy financial situation. Revenues are starting to pick up, but even without that, for some of the steps that we took that the board approved and that all of our partners at the airport were aware of and worked with us on, and talked to his team of planners, communicated that out. We made the necessary adjustments quickly to get ahead of things. Obviously, 100% match from the FAA helped in a lot of aspects as well. But we are in a very healthy financial situation. As we come out of this, we'll be able to react quickly and get some of those funds back out into the aviation system in Colorado through statewide initiatives and different grant programs. Happy to answer any questions from the board.
So, Bryce, Chick Myers, I have one question. It's a general question, but it's a lot of incentives being proposed right now for sustainable aviation fuel, SAF, and Aspen and Telluride both now offering that through their FBOs. Will that have any change in our income structure through the taxes that are related back to the CAB?
You can correct me if I'm wrong here, but from everything that we've been told, that is something that potentially will be managed by, I assume, the Department of Revenue. It doesn't sound like that's going to be, any of that flow is going to come through our division, which this is a nice thing, especially when it's some casters. So yeah, we're not complaining about that, that's for sure. But no, as of now, there's no inclination that that's going to affect any of our day-to-day business.
Thank you.
I would just add, Chick, that sustainable aviation fuel is subject to the same state aviation fuel tax as traditional fossil-based fuels. So we get the same fees as we do on that.
Anyone else? Questions? I will say, and just a compliment to you, Bryce and Dave, it is so nice to be where we are today compared to a year ago. But I will say, because of your conservative approach in management and budgeting, it really has been more of a speed bump. And I think in years past, we would have been sweating this out. So it's wonderful. I can't believe I'm saying this, but it's wonderful that the fuel prices have also increased. That does help us. So if you are paying expensive for your fuel, just know that somebody's benefiting from this. Okay.
And I would just add real quick, Mr. Chair, for those of you that have been following us over the last 14 months, we did make some very quick and strategic reductions to our programs early on in the pandemic to make sure that cash balance stayed viable. We eliminated $400,000 in program education grant funding that we didn't ship out the door. We put a hold on a study that we had planned to start taking a look at electric aircraft and what that might mean for your airports and how we help facilitate those in Colorado. We halted the hiring of a new position to help us manage those education grants and to help Sean do some more outreach and public communications. We didn't hire our own intern internally, partially not because of the money, but because it was hard to give somebody good terms of experience when you're all working at home. But we're going to look forward over the next several months to being very thoughtful and strategic and coming back to all of you with some ideas about how we maybe re-engage in some of those things that will not have the resources to redo.
Thank you, Dave. We look forward to those discussions. Let's go to our next item. Bryce,
I got one more here.
Year-end accruals.
As everybody here has seen at this conference each year, it is accrual season within the state. Our fiscal year end is at the end of June. I know all of the accrual emails have gone out to the airport, so if you haven't got those back, Mike, I saw yours about 5 minutes ago, thank you. Please get those back into us. We have a deadline of June 18th to get those in so we can get those processed. And what that is again is any work done on any of the grants that you have through the state that will be done by June. Any work done up to and including June 30th, you just need to send us an accrual document outlining that so that we can go through our accounting process with CDOT headquarters. And then that way, once you do submit a grant, it can be paid timely, because if you don't, it won't be. We have to wait for their year-end process to close before we can process grants that didn't have any accruals on them. So again, if you have questions, feel free to reach out to me. I will be sending another batch of reminders for those that haven't come in here yet, but June 18th is the accrual deadline. And again, if you have any questions or need more information, I'm easy to get a hold of. So thank you.
Excellent. Any questions? Good. Nice work, Bryce. Okay, let's do industry updates. We have a wonderful guest from West Star Aviation, Dave Copeland.
While he's making his way up, I just wanted to let you know we added a new standing agenda item to the CAB agenda for industry updates to give the CAB and all of you some interesting info about things going on in the industry. And I had an opportunity to meet with Dave and some folks from Grand Junction virtually here a few weeks ago and learn about what's going on. And I think you'd all be appreciative to hear what Dave's working on at West Star. So Dave, welcome.
Okay. Thank you. So, Dave, by the way, what a great event. I have not been here or been to this event before. Angela actually put me onto this, and Dylan at the airport. So, what a neat group of people and aviation professionals. I'm honored to be here. I'm the general manager for the FBO MRO in Grand Junction, Colorado. And actually, this photo you see up here, we did last April, just as a marketing thing to our clients to say, hey, we're still here, we're still open for business. In Grand Junction, we have 507 employees. We're now the largest tenant in the Grand Junction Regional Airport, but we're also the largest private employer in Grand Junction. So we've been on the airport for 69 years, and when Kenny opened this earlier today, he mentioned that the airport and the tenants and the businesses, it's a partnership, and I truly do feel that way. With the Grand Junction Regional Airport, obviously, having been there 69 years, we've been a big part of helping them. And obviously, they help us. We need a runway, we need communications, we need weather stations, all those things. So we have 302,000 square feet under roof on 32 acres. We're a Class 4 repair station, and you can see the whole list of service centers that we are up there today. Slide. So just picture one of the hangars. Our primary focus is on heavy maintenance on aircraft, including airframe maintenance, avionics, interior upgrades, paint, and pretty much anything that you would want to do. The class of airplane is basically from the Global Express on down to the Conquest 2 and CJ market. So next slide. This is one of our newer facilities. This is our facility. It's 120 feet by 120 feet. It moves 220,000 cubic feet of air per minute, and it allows us to paint airplanes for customers all over the world. 13% of our business comes from outside of the U.S., so we're very much not only a national but international company. Our contribution to economically is $94 million a year. And in addition to the 507 jobs that we have, we generate another 202 jobs in the community for them supporting us. So it's a great thing for the community. I'm honored to be there. I've been there for 26 years and I've been the GM for going on 13 years. So it's a great place to be. I think Kenny made a mistake inviting me over here because when I met him today, this morning, I got out of my hotel room and I walked down the path and I walked up this road, which later as I got up higher, I realized it was a ski slope. And when I turned around, I looked out and I saw the Telluride Airport. And so I need to talk to the mayor because I want to be the next manager of the Telluride Airport. What a gorgeous place. Thank you for hosting this. I have to put a plug in for our airport, the Grand Junction Airport. Angela has indeed done an amazing job. Her team has done an amazing job. We feel like we're partners with her. There are a lot of things airports have to do with businesses. We deal with major snow events together. We deal with firebombing together. We deal with diversions together. In fact, we just had one Saturday where we had a huge number of airplanes divert out of DIA. And so, again, to Kenny's point this morning, we do this together. It's a collaboration, and private business is a part of that. So moving on to the next slide. Just to give you a little feel of Westar, we're very much a family-oriented company. Each year we do a special needs kids event, and we usually have about 500 kids from all over Western Colorado come in, and we do a special event just for them. And so we bring in all kinds of different airplanes, including NASA and Air Force airplanes, local type stuff. And it's really a neat event that we've done for over 25 years. So, and is there one more slide? Yeah, okay. That's it. One of the challenges for us, and the reason I got involved, I talked to David and Kenny recently. As a business, we have actually 1,300 employees all over the United States, and we have 3 major locations. One's Grand Junction, Colorado, one's East Alton, Illinois, and one's Chattanooga, Tennessee. And for us, because we're in aviation, the challenges that we face can be very unique. Last year it was COVID. But the reason I reached out to this board was the recent legislative actions in the last congressional session. Some of those were quite onerous. In fact, the COVID bill that passed, it actually cost us $320,000 so far. The other recent bill that passed, which will go into place in 2022, is going to cost us about $1 million a year in lost payroll revenue. So we wanted to just make here's my situation to all of you, especially on the board. I have a CEO who's sitting out there going, where should we make our next investment? And that was going to be in Grand Junction, Colorado. With all these legislative actions, and by the way, that was a $15 million expansion in Grand Junction with about 87 new jobs. He shifted his view to Tennessee because they don't have those same types of burdens. And let's face it, anytime we pass a new measure, someone has to pay, and usually it's taxpayers and businesses. So I would just ask for support in that arena. We did meet with the governor, and some things have changed course a little bit, so that's exciting. But I can use all the help I can get. So, but to end on a positive note, this is a really neat conference. I appreciate you let me talk a little bit. And next year it's in Grand Junction, so hopefully you can all make it there. If you have any questions, I'll be around, and my team will be around through the rest of the day. So thank you. Appreciate it.
Excellent, excellent. We in Colorado are certainly very fortunate to have you. So, any comments from the board? let's go to number 11. And Dave, would you like to talk a little bit about the awards program?
Yep, just a quick recap. Hopefully you all were here getting fed at lunch and you were here to realize that Greg Rosa, the director of the Public Memorial Report, was a recipient of our Aviation Professional of the Year Award, and Angela Padalecki and her entire team at the Grand Junction Airport were our Airport of the Year. So let's give another round of applause to those folks.
That's exciting. Okay, so let's go to number 12 and let's review the program updates. The remote tower, I think the most interesting man in communications right now, Mr. Bill Payne.
Okay, well, I've got some very exciting news. We just finished the annual on the Cub. So it passed, and that, I know that everybody will appreciate knowing that. But talking about the program, as we're coming out of this COVID black hole, the FAA folks back at headquarters are starting to wake up. It's like when the cold weather, you have a snake crawl out on the highway and the sun gets on him, he's starting to move around a little bit. And we're in hopes that we'll be able to get the folks from FAA headquarters here to do our phase 1 testing, which is the operational testing portion of our program, which has been put off significantly. But we are facing 3 primary challenges to that. Number 1 is being able to get the FAA to have their subject matter experts agree to travel. Now, since we in the state and Atlanta County in particular have moved into yellow, according to the Harvard Global Institute COVID Risk Assessment dashboard and whatever the hell it is. Anyway, we're in the yellow, and as long as we meet that for 2 consecutive weeks and hopefully get green, then they agree they will be able to travel at that point. I have to say that our local FAA folks, our air traffic people that I deal with on a regular basis, have been working and continue to work no matter what. It's just the folks at headquarters that are kind of slow to get going. I'm sure they'll get out of their pajamas and get their clothes on and come back to work here at some point. And there are 2 other things that we're looking at. Number 1 is our contract controller group has lost some of their resources. Some of the controllers have moved on to other things, so we're facing a staffing issue. Now, we've got to have, right now, FML is under a fairly interesting situation when they run combined positions in the tower, meaning that one controller is operating both land and ground. They restrict the number of aircraft in the pad. And that's a big problem. So what we're trying to do is, I was on the phone yesterday and again this morning with the Circle people, trying to get some additional folks out here to support our training in order to have our testing, in order to have our testing done. We're looking at having a minimum of 6 certified controllers to be able to operate both the mobile tower as well as the remote tower system. And the third thing is Jason Lacombe, my personal friend back here, has decided in the middle of all this to do an apron project. And so, of course, that creates all kinds of hubbub with folks. But actually, I'm using that as a cudgel to help the FAA see that we should get moving faster. So as of yesterday, they agreed to begin our first testing in August the 16th and go to August the 27th, with a week's break. And then the second half of that will start on August the 7th and then complete on August the 27th. So we're hoping to be able to get them out here. Now, there's some reticence on the part of some of the subject matter experts back at headquarters to travel. And so what we've suggested is that if they don't want to travel out here at that period of time because of the constraints we have due to the construction project on FNL, that we want to be able to use local resources. So we've been reaching out to the Denver Tracon, Denver Tower, and some of the local towers to get resources to be able to support this testing. Now, in the past, the FAA is, when I say FAA, as we all know, the FAA is a whole bunch of little bitty FAA, right? So the one I'm particularly working with is air traffic, HUT. And so we're trying to get them to agree to let us do that. But that's pretty exciting news, because if we can get that completed for those 3 weeks, then we will be able to get through the operational evaluation portion of our program. I personally feel we aren't going to have any major problems with that. There are all good things, there's some bad. So the FAA is saying, okay, in order to go into phase 2, which is, that's the operational testing where we do all the controlling from the remote tower system, and the mobile tower is used as a risk mitigator. It's going to take 5 months to do the SRMD, Safe Risk Management Plan. Now, we're working very hard to get them to see that we don't need to take 5 months to do a panel. Okay, we can do that. Typically, the panel shouldn't last more than a week or 2. So anyway, stay tuned. It's looking very good right now, and I'm hoping to be able to get us underway in August on our phase 1 testing. So, if there are any questions or anybody has anything, ask it now, or I'll be meandering around later in the evening. I may not be as coherent as I am now, but you can certainly try. So, thank you very much. Any questions from the board?
Yeah, Bill, I have one question. You talked about the staffing issue. Is that one of finding qualified people, or is there a financial component to it?
Well, actually, there's not a financial component, because we have the funding. Okay, that's the royal. The FAA has allocated the funding through the federal, through the pilot program to support this. We are having a hard time finding people that can get a CTO, be a certified controller. Now, I've reached out to some people I know in the western part of the U.S. and various towers that I have dealings with, to get, if we need to get some people TDY here that are already certified. And so Serco has agreed to do that. If the FAA actually does, or if we're able to start on the 16th day of August, then we're going to get controllers here somehow.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Payne.
One thing that I would add on, Bill and Jason and I would talk literally every day about this. I think one of the things that's striking us is the FAA and the United States are falling behind on remote towers. Europe is moving forward. There's a new tower in London City that's amazing. Everybody else is moving forward. The FAA, I don't want to say they're getting apathetic, but we maybe need to re-enthusiastically get them start paying attention to what we're doing and looking at Mark a little bit. Maybe we can start leveraging some industry contacts, FAA administrator, right? Get these guys back on track. So that's where the easy there, Bill. Stand by me. I know I'm talking bad about the FAA. We're getting all excited about that. Not talking. We need to make sure that they keep the energy and that we don't lose our investment that we've made in this project, which is significant and will continue to be for the next few years. So whether that's you all reaching out to our congressional folks, the FAA administrator, Mark and his team, have great relationships with, start working on that, get these guys to pay attention to what we're doing.
So, along those lines, I was been on the phone with NAS, the FAA of the UK, discussing their London City program, and they also have additional programs in there. It was one of those things where they contacted me and wanted to know, you show me yours and I'll show you mine, kind of thing, where we do a collaborative type arrangement. And so, one of the first questions they asked me was, what in the heck are y'all doing over there? Because Europe is moving forward. There's a new remote tower project going on in Qingyi in China, in China. And so we're all over the place as far as figuring out where we are. I'm a little bit confused as to why our FAA is not moving forward with speaking on this. So, anyway, all right, we're going to stay down there.
I got a question for Bill.
Bill, I got a question for you.
This is a hard question.
There's a common misperception among the aviation community that your remote tower facility is designed to eliminate the existing control towers. And I'd like you to abuse that, because what you're doing is providing, for instance, at your airport, you're providing control that is not currently there on any regular basis. And the increase in safety because of the volume and the diversity of flights in and out of that airport indicate that the control tower facilities are very appropriate. So I'd like you just to talk to that a little bit so that everybody here understands exactly what it is that your effort is about.
Okay, so you're not totally correct. What's happening is there are a whole lot of air traffic control towers throughout the NAS that are reaching the end of their useful life, okay? And they're POS, they're in trouble. So we're actually working with an airport to replace an existing tower with a remote tower system. Now, having said that, I would say that remote towers are not for every airport. There's several issues that you have to consider when you do remote towers. But for example, the complexity of the airport is very, very important. But even complex airports are utilizing cameras today. For example, LAX is using them. Dallas-Fort Worth is using their use cameras for band control. In fact, 2 weeks ago, I had, a week ago, I guess it was, some folks that were doing an ACRP study. I met them at the tower, at the remote tower facility, so they could see some of the technology that we're using. But it is, with these aging towers, I believe it's going to be more efficient economically for airports to look at that as an option. In fact, we're looking right now, we've done a cost-benefit analysis for both Sticks and Bricks Tower as well as for remote tower, so an airport can compare. Not always, it's not going to make sense for everybody, but it has got some benefit. There is a cost savings. Now, I will tell you, give you a peek behind the curtain here. There are two major parts to the certification of a remote tower. One is operational evaluation. And that's a fairly straightforward. I don't believe we'll have any problem with that at all, other than a normal you have with that sort of thing. Because the system does provide our system provides the situational awareness of the control needs. The other part is the certification of equipment that's non-fair. I can talk about that for hours and hours, and if you want to, I'll be glad to do that. But I think it's important to understand that once we get through the phase 2 testing, which should be done if we can get through this primary testing and get through phase 2, then we'll go into what used to be called IOC, initial operating capability. If they didn't want to call it that, so they're going to call it validation and verification. And when we do that, the system will go live. We'll be able to shut down the tower. And at that point, we're going to try to get Jason, he is eligible to be in the contract tower program. We want to get FNL in the tower program. I know I babbled on and babbled on longer than I should have.
Are you finished?
No, well, thank you very much, Kenny. I appreciate that.
Thank you very much. Chief, whenever I spoke. Number 14, proposed, ask questions, is the last question. Okay, so let's talk about the proposed calendar. The
just skip legislative issues, Mr. Chair, and go into the number 13.
Oops. Let's talk legislative issues.
I won't recap a whole lot. I think we got a great summary this morning from Dan Reamer and our other speaker, whose name escapes me, about the federal things. At the state level, there were no, like the session adjourned a couple days ago, there were no pieces of legislation that directly impacted the division positively or negatively. There are a couple of other things out there that do have some impact on the aviation community. I thought Kelly Sloan from CAOA was going to be in here. Here there is. He works really closely down at the Capitol with CAOA, and I know he's done some work with CAOA. He may be able to fill you in on a little bit of some of the other things that they've been focused on that do have some impacts on aviation, not necessarily the division.
Kelly Sloan with the Colorado Aviation Business Association. I'll be real quick. If anybody has any specific questions on any legislation that happened this year, I'll be around all afternoon so you might see me. But in terms of our legislative priorities for CAOA, our top one for 2021 was establishing the General Aviation Caucus for the legislature, which I'm happy to say we did. We have a great chair and co-chair. The chair is Representative Alex Valdez, Democrat from Denver, and also a pilot, and very supportive of the industry. And our co-chair is House Minority Leader Hugh McKean, who also has a strong aviation background, Republican from Loveland. We had our initial meeting back in, was it May or was it back in April? Was it April? I think it was end of April. We had great turnout. I think we had almost 16 or 17. There were a couple of people. Legislators, bipartisan, very well received. I heard great feedback from all of them that were there. At the initial meeting, Mike Straka, our executive director, gave a presentation, and Dave gave a presentation for CFD. So going forward, we're looking forward to that continue, and over the interim, the General Aviation Caucus is going to be organizing tours around the state, airport tours, and we've already got one tentatively scheduled for RMA. We're going to do one for Centennial later this summer. I know United has offered to do a tour of their training facility, which would be kind of cool. And if any of you airport types want to do a tour for your local legislators or any of the legislators on GA Caucus, feel free to get hold of me. We'll make that happen. So in terms of legislation, we watch a lot of the business bills, and David mentioned a couple of tax bills. We work with the chamber, state chamber, and a lot of local chambers on monitoring and at times opposing a lot of those bills. One that we got fairly involved in was House Bill 1186, the energy efficiency of buildings. Briefly recap what it was designed to do initially was any building in the state, it was going to be statewide, over 50,000 square feet, would have to report their energy usage every year, every June to the Colorado Energy Office, which would benchmark that data, and then there were performance standards in the bill and civil penalties attached for not making them. In our initial conversations early on with the bill proponents, it was pretty clear that they didn't intend to exempt airports and aviation facilities, and further that they had no idea what aviation was all about, what kind of facilities we have, how they're used, anything like that. So we worked, long story short, what we ended up with is a bill that's removed the performance standards in place. They have a task force which will establish performance standards over the next 2 years. And that task force has to specifically examine building types with special energy needs, such as aviation facilities and hospitals. We did try to get a spot on that task force. They didn't go with that, but if anybody from the industry hates yourself enough to actually be on that task force, let me know, and I can let you know how to apply for one of the few open spots. In any case, we'll be watching that to make sure that when they do examine aviation facilities, that they have the requisite expertise. So, one successful bill, and we're happy to see passed, was 1177. The flyway exemption, most of you are familiar with that. When it was written, a lot of the sales and use tax exemptions, they were written to include the returns use. So it was just an exemption from sales tax, not an exemption from sales, use, consumption, and storage. So when they were auditing some of the tax exemptions, and we met with them half of now, 2 years from now, I guess. And we looked at flyaway exemption. They realized that that was one of both 5 or 6 bills, or 5 or 6 tax exemptions that were still out there that didn't have those inclusions on there, which could have caused some issues, especially if you're out of state purchasing an aircraft in Colorado. So they did run a bill to get that fixed, so actually fixed our flyaway exemption. So we're happy about that. There was a fuel tax bill that there was some initial concern that may have removed our fuel tax, the excise tax exemptions. It didn't, it just put it in different places in the statute. That bill is more directed against distributors. It doesn't have much impact on the end users, so our exemptions are still intact there. One thing we were looking at doing, when I was working with Dave a little bit on this, was trying to recapitalize the SIB loan fund. As you know, it's pretty much completed, and it's been refunded through CIP's funds, which have been much less restrictive the year of COVID. So we're looking to see if we can get that recapitalized to $10 million. We had a lot of support for that. There was a lot of confusion where that may be able to come from. And of course, the last few days, last couple weeks of the session, one point the state realized they ran out of all the money that they got from the feds. Then we found some the next day, so they're okay. But that kind of got caught up in all that discussion. So I'm going to be working with Human Community and our Joint Budget Committee legislators, the bipartisan Joint Budget Committee, over the interim to see what pots of money in existing legislation we may be able to pull out of that. Failing that, I have gotten commitments to run a bill already next year, working a bill in the interim to try and get that recapitalized. So we're working on that. And then finally, just kind of looking forward, we're always watching rulemakings, not just the benchmarking task force, but also the rulemakings at the AQCC. Nothing, any of the bills they passed this year, 1176. It's only been 2 days. And I might be on the back, there's not enough caffeine in the world for me to overcome that quickly. Of the environmental bills going through, none of them mention aviation directly, but a lot of those details is in rulemaking. So we're going to be watching rulemakings, not just coming out of the bills from this year, but bills like 1261 from 2 years ago that gives the AQCC considerable authority to do rulemakings to cut greenhouse gas. And I know they do want to address greenhouse gas emissions from the aviation sector. They just haven't figured out how to do it. We keep, they did try to do a takeoff land fee a couple years back. They were supposed to fund state air quality. So they couldn't do that because of FAA stipulations. So they're looking pretty hard at it. So we're going to keep an eye on that. Also things like SAF, how we want to incorporate that, and make sure some of our legislators don't get too exuberant and perhaps we can put on some kind of fees or some kind of mandates associated, or unfunded mandates associated with SAF, or electrification, or anything like that. So again, that's why keeping having the General Aviation Caucus and maintaining those relationships and getting legislators out to talk to you people, see the airports, visit the FBO, see how we operate. That's going to be critical over the next few years. And of course, we always have noise issues, and I can now that the legislature is suspended, I go back to just getting migraines over federal issues. So, if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to take any, or I'll be outside. And it's just, as always, an honor to represent the industry capital. Thanks very much.
Ken has a question. Yeah, Kelly, Dave, I just wanted to compliment the efforts on a GA caucus. I think that's just a brilliant idea, and I'm so glad to see it. So thank you.
Yeah, we're happy to get that done this year. So.
If you come up, great. That way we can capture your question. I'm sorry to make you walk all the way up.
Sure, it's not an airport manager.
you might have said this and I might have just missed it, so I apologize, but House Bill 21-1244, which is about collection of biometric data. So I understood that that one lost, but I just sure would like to confirm, because that's one I think that Part 1542 reports, that's a real issue.
Yeah, that one, I'm sorry, I should mention that one. That one did, there were a couple, but that one did lose. There was another, another bill, I'm trying to remember the name title, we had an issue with on the federal side that had to do with the data collection. And it was actually United Airlines that came to us and flagged that one for us and said, hey, we have an issue with this one. We need to get an exemption. And so we're not running foul of federal regulations. So that's a large part of what we do down there because our industry is so regulated federally. And you get some enthusiastic state legislators and ones that want to do stuff, love doing stuff, they all love doing stuff. And they look at us as something to do stuff too. So sometimes we have to tell them that, yeah, you can't do that. So, but yes, that one did die. 176 did die. That was the colloquially called the Sue Your Boss bill, but it was one that really made it a lot easier for not just employees, but representatives of employees to file lawsuits against employers. We actually worked on an exemption on that one. There was a medical component to it that said that you had to offer employment prior to a medical exam. I was concerned that might give us issues with flight medicals, and having to offer employment without flight medical, and also issues in that part of the bill with the prohibitions against sharing medical information with third parties. And again, that was running into some issues with federal regulations. So we got that exemption, but that bill did end up dying, I think, just Monday. So, I think there's any other bills, any of you are watching, like some information, I'd be happy to try and get my brain to see if I remember any of them.
Thank you, Kelly. Okay, now proposed calendar.
Very quickly. Tuesday, August 24th will be our annual CAB staff workshop. Again, that's for your newer members. It's a great opportunity that we have every year to spend a day together and talk philosophically about all kinds of great things, make sure we're on the same page with all of you and got a good path forward. So we'll do that on Tuesday, August 24th. And then for those of you that come from out of town, our next board meeting will be Wednesday, August 25th, the next day at 9 a.m. So both of those are open to the public. There is no action taken at the CAB staff workshop. But the meeting on the 25th is the general meeting. So that's it, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And now we're to other matters for the public and members. Yes,
Stacy.
Stacy.
Good afternoon, Stacy Fagan, the airport manager at Steamboat. I am having what I consider to be a trend about insurance, and I'm just wondering if anybody's addressed it or any of the other folks have any ideas on this. So our ground leases require that the lessee, the tenant, have insurance for both the hangar and their aircraft. Many of my older pilots are not being able to be insured, especially if they have a complex airplane. And so I have a trim of about 5 pilots that are in hangars, that own these hangars, that can insure their aircraft, and I don't want to kick them out. So I'm just wondering if there's a self-insured template, or if anybody's working with AOPA or any of the other agencies. Because my oldest pilot's 82 and still going strong.
I looked at airports. That's not something the division would be engaged with.
I think it's, if anyone does have thoughts, I would encourage you to contact Stacy. From my perspective, I've really only dealt with airports or airport corporations or what have you to offer those types of self-insurance or what have you. So that's a tough one on these individuals. And sadly, it's it's one of those issues that continue to drive out, especially some of our older hikes. So it's just a difficult issue. Yes, Jeff has it.
Just a thought, they may not be insured as age for flight, but they can obtain hangar insurance, which is really what you are focused on primarily, is making sure that the structure, maybe adjacent airplanes are insured. And so that has really nothing to do with age or flight. So they should be able to obtain that type of insurance, just not aircraft insurance.
Jeff, before you leave, I might ask a question on that. Is it common? That sounds unusual for my airport management days. I can't think of a lease I ever dealt with that required aircraft insurance for a GA hangar. Is that common or uncommon?
Again, sort of divide by two sides. On commercial operations, it's more common to insure the aircraft. On the perspective that airport management needs to be focused on is the structure, because reversion, right? You want that structure protected for it to revert 50 years from now. Second is if it's a T-hangar structure, we've got 9 other aircraft within the structure, and we want to protect those other aircraft. And normal aircraft insurance will cover that being in a hangar, and if something were to from that aircraft cause damage. But you can get that other type of liability protection, facility protection, separate and apart from an aircraft policy, that should give the airport sponsor and the adjacent tenants the protections that they need. The facility side is a common element when you're leasing land for development of improvements or leasing the improvement to the tenant. You always want to protect that part of the investment.
Jim will be at the back of the room after this session, just offering his contact information. Okay, the only other thing that I would say, are there any other matters? Okay, I just wanted to say, since you're, I get the fortunate to be a host and have all of you here, and especially my fellow board members. And there was, I think Stacy made it in and Mark made it in. I was, I feel like a parent sometimes. I just get a little nervous, and when I see your sunshiny faces, I relax. So, and yes, I did do that runway for you, and Stacy. So, no, thank you all for coming, and it's an honor to host you. And no offense, but hopefully I don't have to do this for a while. So. And with that, I think we can call adjourned. Thank you so much. I would encourage you to stick around in about 15 minutes. We're going to have a very special, inspirational speaker. Back to 3. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone on the Zoom call today.
Thanks for getting us set up.
Yeah, sorry, it was screwed up a little bit to start. Wi-Fi connection was a little touchy. All right, have a good day, guys.
Bye-bye.